Hey everyone, welcome back to another Middle Age Gaming podcast. I hope you guys are having a wonderful week so far, and I hope you are cooler wherever you are in the world. But apparently, everything in the northern hemisphere is pretty damn warm. Today we have games, and news, and lots of everything else. Everything under the sun, pretty much. So we're talking about a bunch of new games that are launching because, again, as always, people are always searching for new games. So I'll be talking about a bunch of new games that are coming out literally the day after this podcast airs on Spotify, on YouTube as well, or airs live anyway. And the guys will be talking about some news. And today, let's start off with Antoine first, and we'll go Adam and myself as usual.
All right. So I think something which was interesting because I thought we talked about Telltale games before. You remember The Walking Dead, Garden of Galaxy was one of the most recent. And I didn't see anything much since Guardian of the Galaxy, maybe episode 2 or 3, I can't remember. So I thought I went down under, but that's not the case. So if you're like me and you really, really enjoy the books of The Expanse, and then after that, the Netflix show, which was actually really good. I don't watch too much show, but this one I really recommend. Telltale is coming with The Expanse Telltale, which you won't be on the Residente with the usual crew. This is a prequel. So you are a scavenger on the belt, Mars, not Mars, Saturn, you have the asteroid belt. You are part of these belters, and you are on some kind of treasure hunt. And as per pure expense drama, it goes all wrong. And it looks extremely cool. And I didn't realize it's coming out, I believe, end of July on PS4, PS5, Xbox, etc. And I was looking at Game Pass. Unfortunately, I don't think it's coming out on Game Pass, or at least I didn't see the news. So if you have seen the news that it's coming out there, I'd be very interested. Unfortunately, I don't think that's the case. Otherwise, well, if you like Telltale, you can buy either, as usual, season 1 or episode 1, or the whole season pass, because they usually have 2, 3, 4 episodes if you are used to it, with Walking Dead and stuff. So yeah, something that I very likely will recommend because I really love The Expanse and the universe all around it. And yeah, it's going to be fun. We'll see if they use the little how do you say, the belters are used to very low gravity compared to Earth. So they have much slender and taller bodies. That's why when they go to Earth, they have this gravity torture. You just put them on the wall like this, and it's torture for them. We'll see if they take this kind of gimmicks, but that's pretty cool for them to actually do a game on this.
Adam, what's your take on this? Did you ever watch the TV show?
I have not watched the TV show. I've watched videos that kind of like condense it all down. Like I've watched like lore videos on it, but I've never actually watched the show itself. I don't watch too much TV these days.
I know, and me too. Unfortunately, it's kind of terrible, but no, I'm so excited. I'm glad this is Antoine's first story because I loved the TV show. I never read the books. My older brother did, and he was like, "Oh, you should keep an eye out for this TV show." And I watched it all. I did not watch the last season because I hate to watch anything when it ends. So I'd like skipped. I watched like one episode of the last season. I'm like, okay, this is ending. I don't want to know how it ends. And so if they do make like a prequel, or they're like, hey, a few years later, let's continue the show or something like that, that's impossible. But yeah, I have a bunch of Telltale games. I have not finished any of them. Have I finished them? No, I have not. But this is something I'll definitely pick up on a sale. And I hope, to me, I love the way the Belters talk. It's so cool as somebody like Adam and I and Antoine, I guess, are multilingual people these days. So they have a really cool way of speaking. So I hope they get to do the real voice actors. I guess one of the main actors from the Belters is a Canadian, like native Aboriginal Canadian lady. And I hope she's in there as well.
Yeah, the universe of The Expanse, fantastic. I'm a big fan of saying movies are crap, read the book. Exceptionally, in this case, I really found the show really good. To be honest, even compared to the books, of course you can't condense because there's lots of books and everything, but it's a bit like the Lord of the Ring, right? The 3 movies, although much shorter than the actual books, were really well made. This show, honestly, I recommend. Yeah.
Anton, do you know, is this Telltale series, is this financed by Amazon, or because I know Amazon owns the IP now, or do they sell it to somebody else to make it?
No idea. How about you go to your second story and I'm gonna check that.
Okay, all right, go ahead, Adam.
All right. So my first story, not my second story, is that we have a little bit more on Armored Core 6 now. I don't know why the video is not playing. There we go. So basically at Game Fest, we had well, I shouldn't say we because I obviously wasn't there, but FromSoft did a closed door kind of demo of Armored Core where they were showing people actual gameplay of the game. And when I say actual gameplay, I mean that there was a dev sitting there with a controller in his hand playing the game live. So one of the things they even mentioned was the guy died in the middle of the demo, and that was not planned. So they had a working build of the game. Now, unfortunately, this was very long. They showed the entire mission, and then afterwards they showed this clip that we're watching now, or they've released this clip that we're watching now, which shows some highlights from that, but it's been scrubbed. So they've taken out the UI and everything. It's just the visuals, which to me is a weird choice. Why would you do that? I mean, I have a short that's going to be coming out relatively soon that from Antoine and I when we did our Final Fantasy VII Rebirth kind of trailer reaction. And I specifically mentioned how I love the fact that they showed the UI in the demo because that shows you what to expect in the gameplay, and it demonstrates to you that this is actual gameplay as opposed to sometimes where we see something and people say like, this is in-engine or whatever, and you can't tell is this gameplay or is this designed specifically for the demo? Is this, catered for the demo? There's no way to tell. But with a UI, it definitely feels more like actual gameplay. So why they scrubbed that out, I have no clue. But we do have a few more details on what's going to be happening in the game. So, for example, we have they are including a stagger meter. Now, staggering was a thing in older Armored Core games, but basically what it was is you had a stat on your parts. So basically said, how much impact can you take? And if an enemy weapon is doing more impact than you're able to take, it'll stun you for a couple seconds. And you could stun lock enemies this way. Certain enemies could stun lock you this way. Now there's a stagger meter where you're building up stagger over an amount of time, and if you're not going to take damage, that meter's going to go down. But if you break it, if you get beyond that point and break the stagger, then the enemy goes into a staggered state where you can do some extra damage. Certain weapons are also going to prolong that, and certain weapons are going to be catering more towards building this stagger as opposed to other weapons that are going to be geared more towards damage. So you're going to want to kind of balance those two things out. They also showed that all the weapons are going to be controlled by your 4 shoulder buttons. So how that's going to make movement work is going to be really interesting, because if you're using the 4 shoulder buttons for your weapons, traditionally you would hit triangle and you would toggle between them. But now if you have access to all 4 of your weapons, you also need to be able to use your thumbs to control your camera. You need to have your thumbs to control your movement, and you need your thumbs to control any kind of boosting you're going to be doing. So now you have to have 3 things assigned to your thumbs. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. Although they did add in hard locking, which is new to Armored Core, because in previous entries, you only had soft locking, where basically it was kind of a Ace Combat kind of thing, where, if you have somebody within your, in front of you, you basically have this kind of a HUD that's a rectangle, and if enemies are within that and within range, then it'll soft lock on them, and, your arm weapons will automatically shoot in that direction. Your shoulder weapons, if you fire them, will be able to track enemies and that sort of thing. So now they have hard locking, which means that your camera will be fixed to whatever you're hard locked on. It also changes the way your weapons work, because if you are not using hard lock and you're using, say, missiles, if you have 4 enemies on screen, it'll lock maybe 1 missile to each enemy. Whereas if you have a hard lock, it'll lock all 4 missiles onto that one single enemy. So that'll change a bit. And that's a pretty big deviation from previous Armored Core games. They also have a circular HUD, like what we circular targeting system, like what we had in Armored Core 5. I'm personally a fan of the square one. I kind of liked it. It felt a little more mechanical. It felt a little more mechy to me than just this, circle that's moving around. Also, in the previous games, it was really important what kind of it's a FCS you had, because that determined what kind of targeting you had. Some were very tall and narrow, but very good, had a long range, or some were a small box, some were a really, really wide box. Some could lock onto more enemies, some could lock onto fewer enemies. So they still have FCS as a part, but I don't know if maybe the circular targeting system is just the FCS that was demoed in the game, or if they're or if that's just the way it is because that's how it was in Armored Core 5. Hard to say. They also have fewer parts, so they're going back to the original Armored Core parts of just head, torso, arms, legs, FCS boosters, your arm weapons, your shoulder weapons, your generator, and your expansion. They're getting rid of. They used to have up to 3 expansion slots, so you had an interior, you had an extension, and you had an optional part. Now there's just 1 expansion part. They are getting rid of your radiator. Your radiator is now a part of your generator. It's not a separate component anymore. So it'll be interesting how heat's going to work, because before you could kind of tweak it for if you wanted to be better at heat or worse at heat. Now it's just entirely tied to your energy output. And they're also getting rid of the extra boosters that were added in Armored Core 4. So you only have your 1 set of boosters. They also are adding in a little bit of Souls things. I believe it's called an Estivus Flask. I haven't played Souls. I've played Bloodborne. But basically your healing. Now they've added healing to Armored Core, where you have up to 3 repair drones. At any time, you can use one of your repair drones and it'll repair your mech. So that's a new thing. And they also added supply drops. So if you're in the middle of a mission, the missions now are much, much longer. So in the middle of a mission, if you get to a supply drop, you can resupply. You can get all your heals back, your repair drones back. You can get your ammunition back. So they're adding that in as well. And what they're also adding in with that, because these missions are longer, are checkpoints where if you get to a certain point and you die, you can either go back from the beginning, you can go back to a checkpoint, or you can go back to the garage, change up your mech entirely, and then start again from that checkpoint. So for me, I'm a little bit concerned with that. Not concerned, but I'm not sure how I feel on that, because personally for me, I would have just said, get rid of the repair drones, get rid of the supply drops, just make shorter missions like in the older games, and, make it so that you do have to customize your build for certain levels. That would have been my preference, but who knows? Maybe it'll work out really, really well. But if you want to know more, I would highly recommend checking out VaatiVidya's an extended look at Armored Core 6 YouTube video, because the guy does like a 20-something minute video where he basically goes over everything he saw. He was there, everything he saw. He even does kind of a Photoshop of the HUD, and he kind of explains what each of the components are. And that reminds me of another thing that wasn't there when he described it, was the mini-map. They used to have a mini-map in the older games, and one of the back components was a radar array. And none of the stuff that we've seen so far has had radar as a back component. So I don't know. Maybe they did away with that and there's no more minimap, no more radar. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, updates on Armored Core 6.
Antoine?
Oh, I just hear the fan talking, and that's great, because I don't know Armored Core, but I really like listening to Adam describing all of these parts stuff. And yeah, I just hope that this game is gonna live up to expectations.
Hope so.
I have one question, Adam, because I'm looking at this. I guess maybe I just didn't notice it in the first time we talked about it. Was this looks very twitchy, like you need really good reflexes to play it. Is that true?
Yeah, it's probably going to be very twitchy. In the original games, part of the limitations of, say, the original PlayStation, to a lesser extent the PlayStation 2 and whatnot, these games were maybe not quite so twitchy, just because, you were a little more, especially in the original one, because, you didn't have the analog stick to move the camera. You had to move the camera up and down with your shoulder buttons. Strafing was also done that way. So they were probably a little bit slower. And then starting in Armored Core 4, speed was a really, really big aspect of the game. So you were boosting around all the time. And now in this one, speed's going to be, it's probably a little bit slower than 4, but it is probably going to be very twitchy. They were saying that the combat was much faster paced than what we've seen in recent FromSoft titles such as Elden Ring, Dark Souls, and Bloodborne. Bloodborne was considered to be kind of the faster game. The other ones were a bit slower and more methodical, but yeah, this one's going to be pretty twitchy.
Okay. This like I was like, oh, cool, a mech game, and I think I talked to you guys about MechWarrior 5, and I liked that, but it was way too hard to play solo, and even with the 2 people, my brother and I played MechWarrior 5, and it was still like pretty difficult, and like the easiest difficulty, and a very like a grindy long game. I'm like, this looks cool, but this looks like it's on the opposite end, like very, very fast. You need to have like a nice optimized Xbox controller or PlayStation. I don't know if does the PlayStation 5 controller work with PC these days?
Yeah. Yeah, Steam has
Okay.
a special app for it, basically.
Okay. So you need like a nice controller in order to like really enjoy it, and so I don't know. This looks like a game to watch and read a few reviews, and if it is really that fast and that twitchy, then unfortunately, my dreams of a cool mech game are going down the bathroom toilet.
Yeah, in the older games, you could kind of, because you could tweak the build a lot, and because each mission, like I said, you would start a mission with your build, and then you would have to use that one build throughout the entire mission. This time, you can switch your build in the middle of a mission, so maybe yeah. So it'll be interesting to see if it requires a lot of the twitchiness, or if there are ways that you could build around it. So we'll have to wait and see. For instance, one of the things that the guy doing the video was kind of curious about was with the tank builds. Tank builds are traditionally really heavy, pretty slow, but they can carry the big weapons. They can fire while moving. They have those sort of advantages. So there was a trade-off. You lose your speed, but you gain basically power and you become a tank. But looking at the big boss in this demo, he was like, this thing is, charging at you from across the screen. How is a tank even going to work now? So it'll be interesting to see how they do. And one thing they did say was there was a smaller kind of mini boss that the guy playing it, when he died, he was using the original kind of bipedal mech that we saw earlier in this demo, and he was using that, and that was kind of a mid-range mech, and he was really struggling with it. He basically couldn't get at it, so he died to it. He had to change his mech up to a faster, more melee, or not melee, but closer ranged mech, and then came back and then beat it that way. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how builds work.
Cool. Okay, let's move on to my first choice, which is a bit of a weird game, but I guess I'll get into that. Ooh, and where's my script? All right, middle-aged gamers, imagine a game where the only real goal is to go up and explore. Well, today we're talking about a game with a simple title called Only Up. And no, it is not the Pixar movie. It is a cheap game, around $6 at the time of you watching this video or listening to the podcast. It seems like it's geared to people who don't mind doing things over and over and over again. It's a great streaming game or a competitive game, something you could do with your community if you're a big person who's streaming on Twitch or in Kick these days, and Kick seems to be doing really well, stealing XQC and Amaranth as of yesterday. You should check out this on Steam. Some of the reviews are really fun, and they explain like this game is fun, and they're like, I died one time and I destroyed my computer room and my computer. Definitely a game for those of you who are seeking a challenge. I like the idea of this, but I mean, without save points, I would say this is definitely not a game for middle-aged gamers. But it is a game, like this reminds me of that one game, and I'm going to butcher this guy's name, Getting Over It with Bennett Foddy or Fodder. I don't know, Adam might remember this better than I do. But this is a really popular game where it was just like you play this with one key, and the aim of that game, I remember seeing this on the iPad, was just to go over a mountain. And once you died, you have to start all the way on the bottom. But yeah, no, this is just it. And it's made by like an obscure South Korean studio. And I was like, because I was looking up the YouTube video on the channel. I'm like, hey, this is called SCKR Games. I'm like, this can't be the real name of a game studio. What kind of name is that? Everyone has like a cool name for like Telltale or, Paradox or Focus Home Interactive. But no, this is the name. But yeah, apparently you guys are really like to watch these videos on Twitch, on YouTube, on Facebook. And this is why this is doing so well. And I can understand why, because like I can imagine after playing this game for like 50 minutes and then dying and falling all the way back down to earth, as you can see in the trailer, people would have some really fantastic reactions, or the opposite of that. So yeah, something for you to keep out, maybe something for you guys to watch, or something if you're a young streamer. This is the kind of game that sort of pulls in an audience as well, especially if you have very entertaining reactions. So keep an eye out for it. Buy it if you want. Like I said, it is really, really cheap, like $6, probably whatever your original equivalent is. And if you are going to play it, or if you did play it, let us know. Comment on the YouTube video. Comment on Spotify. You can comment on Spotify as well. So please do that.
It looks interesting. It looks kind of like they went. It looks like somebody had this. They were looking at the asset store, and they were like, "I kind of want to make a game. There's all these cool assets. I don't really know which one to include. I'll just use all of them. How do I make a game with that? Let's just climb stuff." And it kind of looks like that was kind of the design philosophy.
That is such a good description. I never even thought about that. I'm like, yeah, because Epic has all these like design assets on sale or for free. And yeah, why don't you make a cool game and make it about going up and make it like hard and challenging, because that's what people like these days. And there you go, like freaking standing on a flying turtle in the middle of the sky. Why not?
Yeah, I mean, if I was Epic Games, this seems like the kind of thing for me. Like, if I was Epic Games and I'm like, we have this asset store. How do we advertise this? Right? Let's make a game that just uses all our assets.
But yeah, no, you check out the Steam reviews. You can check out some of the YouTube videos. They're pretty funny. Like some people playing this are just like really, really realistic, as if they're in the game and they're like, oh my god, I'm gonna fall, like stuff like that. It's pretty hilarious.
Yeah, it's very trending these days, like Getting Over It or Alt F4. It's a complete streamer game, which if you watch a streamer which is a little bit impatient or sensitive, you're gonna have fun very fast. I actually saw a guy breaking his pad on Alt F4.
Oh
It's
my
just
god.
so frustrating and annoying. And how can you play? You just play this to have a bad time.
Yes.
You watch the guy having a very, very, very bad time. I don't like this personally, because I like to see maybe a couple of shorts, like a best of Alt F4 that could be funny. But watching 2 hours of the guy, I have to restart that. The mechanic completely broken, the bloody game. The things don't work. It's basically this for 2 hours. Oh.
As I said, like, this is really not for middle-aged gamers, but maybe people who are like looking to start a streaming audience and stuff. Like, yeah, no, I will never buy this game, but I understand the fun value in watching it, so why not?
I'm half tempted.
I saw that when I mentioned streaming. I saw your eyes like bling bling. But yeah, no, I'm curious if this is on PlayStation, because I did only see it on like people playing it on Steam. So
Probably not.
I wouldn't think so. This looks like a game which might not meet PlayStation's the PlayStation Store standards.
They got some pretty low standards. They had like Pet the Cow or whatever that game was.
What? Really?
Yeah.
Oh god. Okay.
It's gone. I think it's still up. They don't do that as much anymore. But yeah, for a while there, they just kind of like opened the floodgates. I think they're closed now.
All right. With that weird and strange game only up, let's move on to Antoine's story number 2.
All right, just a bit of news. If you were waiting, you have seen, like us last week, the Summer Game Fest, and one of the big hitter was I don't want to destroy the name, but that was Immortals of Aveum by Electronic Arts and Ascendant Studios. It was supposed to be released on July 20th, and now it has been delayed until August 22nd. So that's a little bit of news if you haven't seen and you are really expecting this game. They have, and I really encourage this kind of behaviors, they decided to release it a month later because they need to polish the game. They need to clean out the bugs, polish the game, and they specify that some platform release wasn't so hot right now. So they want to take an extra month to make sure that the release of the game actually works. They want to avoid what we have seen lately. So yeah, just a quick little news, because I know that some stories go very long, run very long. So yeah, I want them taking some short stories.
What do you think, Adam?
I've seen the videos of this, and I don't know, like all the particle effects and everything going on. I was kind of like, this just looks really cheesy, but this just looks like it's, kind of par for course right now. Everyone really likes that bright colors and neon everything, and this just seemed to fit right in there. And then I was watching the trailer earlier, and I didn't realize this, but the main character is the guy from Never Have I Ever on Netflix. Have you watched that show?
No, never.
Oh, okay.
But it's
pretty good. But yeah,
it's like a Borderlands game, so you don't really see the guy, right?
You don't
It's
see him, but you hear him a lot. And so, like, they just
and
released season 4, so my wife and I were watching it, and one of the guys, his name is Paxton Yoshida, and then, I wasn't even paying attention. I was dropping everything into the files, and then I heard the voice, and I was like, "Wait, that's the dude!" And then I looked at it, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, 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 that's the dude." Which I will say, I'm not a fan of a lot of games right now. I know Hideo Kojima really is a fan of this, but I'm really not. Is basing game characters off of real life people, where you take their likenesses and everything. And I'm not a fan of that. I don't know. I just like having original characters that are, not based off anybody. For a couple of reasons. One is, so you don't run into the situation that we have with, like, say, Silence in uh, Horizon Forbidden West, where, you can't have the same actor for, like James Bond has to change every so often, right? That's just how it has to be. And, the same thing with game characters, moving forward. Laura Croft has been around for how long? If we had based her off of a single person, we would have had to shift her a couple times. But with a video game character, if you use an original character, you can switch the voice actor, but have the character maintain a certain style throughout. And so, I'm personally not a fan. I'm like, I like to have my reality over here, and I like to have my virtual reality over here. Yeah, a lot of people are really big into basing video game characters off of real actors these days.
sorry for the digression, but did you see the Nicolas Cage skin for Dead by Daylight?
No, I did not. Oh,
I
from
did see
You didn't see
from
the game face.
what's
He
that
came,
movie?
Renfield.
They had a Renfield skin? I thought. Oh, okay. I thought they had a skin from.
Oh, the movie's name is Renfield.
Oh no, but there was another movie where he's like killing a bunch of people while on drugs, and I'm trying to remember what it was called.
Oh God, no, I don't remember that, but I know which movie you're talking about.
And it's like, yeah, it's like
Um,
super crazy. I thought it was that one.
he's one of the victims in this, but I mean, the skin for a 5-6 years old game. Why?
I will grant you, I'm okay with, like, say, a Nicolas Cage skin, or was it?
Fair enough. But we can do a special on this later. So
Yes, we can.
Keanu Reeves, Nicolas Cage. Would you have?
I mean, I don't mind, like, okay, if you're doing a John Wick skin and Keanu Reeves is playing John Wick, and so you make it look like Keanu Reeves, that's one thing. But I mean, but that's based on a movie. If I'm making a new game, I would be like, I'm not gonna make a character that looks like me. I don't know. I'm one of those people, though. I was talking to my students the other day, and they were talking about how, or one of my students brought up that they did research that most people, when they play games, create characters that look like themselves. So over half of the, so if you took, I don't know what the percentage was, but over half of the people would typically make a character that looked like himself. I'm the kind of person who always makes a character that looks nothing like. So I don't want to play a blonde-haired, blue-eyed dude. I don't know. I just never do. I'll go with, I'll change everything. I'll play a black-haired guy. I'll play a guy who's got different skin tone. I'll play women. I don't know. I just don't like playing people that look like me. I don't know. That's my thing. I want to be somebody else in the game.
Okay, so we'll take an appointment for you at the psychiatrist. A bit of insecurity there, Mr. Gray.
I'm just different. I don't know. Yeah, I just like being somebody else. That's the point. I have my own life. When I play games, I want to live a different life. That's me.
All right, let's move on to Adam's second story.
All right, so my second story for today is that... Oop, I don't think that was Antoine's second story. Is that the patch 1.63 has come out for Cyberpunk. So this is mostly bug fixes. If you're looking for an entirely new Cyberpunk experience, you're going to have to wait for patch 1.7, because in that we're getting all the big changes, such as changes to your tech trees, changes to your character, changes to your how gameplay works, the whole being able to fire a gun while driving and that sort of thing. But 1.3 is getting us closer to Phantom Liberty, but it's not making any major changes. Mostly they're related to quests and certain bugs that would make those quests impossible to complete, such as certain quests where you walk in and apparently B dies upon immediately entering the room, or other things such as, dialogue not popping up and that sort of thing. So no major changes here. Probably the biggest changes you're going to see are on PC. They added photo mode, or they made it so that stickers are showing up properly in photo mode. They're fixing issues with certain GPUs, that sort of thing. And on Xbox specifically, they changed the number of save slots to 20. I don't know what it was previously, but there's now 20 save slots on the Xbox. So if you want have more than 20 saves, I'm sorry, you're gonna have to start deleting them. Which I don't know. I don't know why you would need 20 saves, but hey, I guess some people are hoarders, right? You can also have up to 10 no point of no return saves on Xbox as well. So yeah, nothing major, but I saw a lot of people are searching on this because, you know, we just got the Phantom Liberty kind of information dump, and then immediately they drop a patch. And so a lot of people are thinking like, oh my God, we can change all these things now. But if you are, you know, waiting to jump back in once those changes come in, you're probably not going to see too much of a change on this patch. So just giving people a heads up, basically.
Cool. That's very, very useful, and I know people liked your Phantom Liberty stuff from the last week's episode, so that's really, really interesting. And yeah, no, still a big no for me on the Cyberpunk front until I find out that I don't have to have Keanu Reeves in my head anymore.
Nope, he's always going to be there until Cyberpunk Orion.
Okay. What is Cyberpunk Orion?
It's the next Cyberpunk project. So it's whatever
cool.
you. So 2077 is this one, and then Cyberpunk Orion is basically Cyberpunk 2.
Cool. Okay. Nice. Antoine, any thoughts?
Oh, it's as usual extremely worrying. We are coming upon a quite huge DLC, and they are still there trying to fix the first game 2 years after release.
Is it 2 years?
Already, almost, huh? Isn't it? Or more than a year at least, but
No, okay, so
No,
we'll
wait,
say
yeah,
about
yeah,
2
because
years.
we remember when we first started this podcast, you and I were debating as to which one of us should play Cyberpunk and
Adam's
which one of us should
memory,
play
yes.
Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
Yes.
So 2 years after, they're still fixing bugs, and now they're coming up with the DLC. I am very worried. Also, I'm not playing it, and I won't be playing it. Well, not until V is getting out of your head, I guess. That's a no-no. And unless you have mods, on computer you have mods, maybe you can remove that, maybe. But at least until the game is completely stable from start to finish, and maybe in 2 years there'll be a discount including the DLC for free or something like this. Then I'll take it.
Sounds like a plan. All right, with the clock running down, let's move on to my story number 2. Sit up. I keep slouching all the time. All right, middle-aged gamers. Often hear you guys complain on YouTube, social media, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok about the lack of innovation in gaming. And today, I have a solution for you. So here are 5 things you need to know about Bookwalker Thief of Tales. So one of the coolest things in this game, and I mean, Adam and Antoine might know better, is like, this to me seems really cool. You have the power, or like kind of like a superpower that allows you to journey in between the real world and the book worlds. So if you can think of some of the most famous books in like literary history, right? You'll be able to sort of take part in these books, go into the books, accomplish tasks in them. Like in the description of the game, they talk about stealing Thor's hammer. The game also has a really decent story, of course, because it is about a guy, and I mean, I guess maybe there's like a French twist to here because the guy's name is Etienne, which I'm sure I'm butchering a French name in English, but yeah, it's supposed to have a decent story. And again, if you're somebody who, I think most of the middle-aged gamers, you guys would have studied some sort of classic literature growing up in high school or in middle school, right? All the things you read, like I guess in English would be like Clockwork Orange or things of that nature, right? Adam's looking in my eyes. I'm like,
You
I
would
thought
read
that was.
Clockwork Orange in high school? I don't think so.
Why not?
That's a bit inappropriate.
Oh, okay. We read Clockwork Clockwork Orange in my high school.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So I don't know. But yeah, no. So there are puzzles to solve, and so if you're not into that, you might want to give it a miss. But then there's always YouTube as well. Again, this is I guess very different from Always Up in the sense that it's a very low spec game. The recommended GPU, not the minimum GPU, is a GTX 1060, which is like 5-6 years old. So it's what Adam has exactly. The game is the only second game from this indie studio. The developer has a cool name, which is called Do My Best, which I thought was a really, really cool name. The first game was a game called Final Station, which I played on the Switch, which is also like a really nice, not really easy going, but like not an overly difficult, but like an innovative game in a sense, right? But yeah, Bookwalker, A Thief of Tales comes out tomorrow, June 22nd, wherever your time is. It says June 23rd for me, so this will be June 22nd EST. Steam says approximately 1 day and 15 hours as of this moment. If you're not sure about it as well, they do have a demo available, so you can check that out. But this is a game that, I've already bought it. I might actually buy it on the Switch as well, because it is like low spec enough that even 7 years after the Switch released, I think this would run pretty well on a Switch. And yeah, keep an eye out for it.
So this kind of like a point and click kind of thing?
That's exactly what I wanted to mention. Yeah.
So this is like a third person. Oh my god, what is that game called? I can't think of it. Shadowrun, like kind of like Shadowrun, like a third person RPG, which switches between third person and first person as well. So it looks pretty cool. Like you can kind of see it in the trailer as well. Like you switch between third person and first person.
It makes me think of the evolution of what we used to have back in the what do you say it in English? In French, was Chevalier de Baphomet.
Oh my god.
Knight of Baphomet? No, you don't know?
No.
Oh, that's the old investigation game, kind of point and click on the PlayStation 20 years ago. That was absolutely fantastic, this kind of game. But okay, so some kind of up-to-date Myst in less complicated, hopefully.
Hopefully less complicated, yes. All right, let's move on to Antoine's third story.
Yeah, again, it's going to be very quick because I saw, and I don't use Twitter much, but I saw that Nintendo of America dropped a tweet today saying that tomorrow, for you guys, for me, sorry, but for you guys would be today, I don't know. There's a Nintendo Direct tomorrow, and it's gonna focus on some games. I noticed mainly Pikmin 4 that of course the page closed when I was looking at it. Fantastic. But anyway, yeah, they're gonna talk about Pikmin 4, which piqued my interest because that's not a game I would play nowadays. But that was the first game that my brother bought when we got our GameCube again 20 years ago. That's full of nostalgia, and I didn't really get why, or maybe I just missed it. But it's a 40 minutes show, and just popping a tweet saying, "Hey, we do a direct tomorrow." That sounds a bit like rush, or I don't know. Don't you give a bit more notice for this kind of life? Is it just maybe me who missed it, or? Well, in case you missed it like me, tomorrow's a Nintendo Live. We're gonna talk about lots of games, and I'm trying to refine my link here. Okay, so they were talking about, as I said, well, whatever is gonna launch on Switch this year, and it's gonna be 40 minutes, and mainly Pikmin. So I'm gonna talk a bit about Advance Wars. I see 1 and 2 Reboot Camp, which I still didn't get. I really want to. But yeah, basically that's it. So tune in for the Nintendo Live, if you can.
I know. I mean, this is really cool, and I don't know. I wanted to ask you guys this. I kind of have this feeling lately, like I feel like not like gaming is depressing, but like in a sense that I feel like I've gotten to a stage where I have so many games. Every time I see a new game is being released, I kind of get a little bit depressed. I'm like, I'm never going to get a chance to play it because I'm stuck playing Valheim at the moment, and I'm enjoying it. Don't get me wrong, but I'm like, oh my god, I really want to play this and this and this, but I just can't play it because this is the 1 hour allotted time of gaming a day. So I don't know if you guys have sort of feeling that like I love that there's so many games, and I think that should never stop. But I think like, have we gotten to an age where we're too old to play multiple games? I don't know.
Not necessarily, but 2023 has been very, very heavy on, like hot release, right? This has been the year where you saw all the combat game, the Street Fighter, Tekken, Mortal Kombat. This is the year where you get Diablo 4. If you get Final Fantasy 16. You get so many games this year. It's incredible. You will have Starfield. You will have Pass of Exile if you like the Diablo like. I think this year particularly is extremely heavy in terms of video game. Maybe because it's an aftermath of the fact that it was a bit light during COVID time, and everybody's finally picking the pace and releasing their things. I don't know, but yeah, I'm like you. I'm like right now. I'm playing Diablo 4. I think I'm gonna play Diablo 4 for another month because even if the story itself, you can finish it in 2 or 3 weekends, so many dungeons and things to do or side quests that it takes a while. All the while, I have Fugas that I really want to play because I love the game. I know I'm gonna love it, but I can't play until I finish this. And after this, you have this. And after this, after this, you have Starfield that you want to play. Starfield is gonna take hundreds of hours of my time as well. So yeah, no, you need to start your year with a calendar. So from January to February, and there's this, and then this, and you need to do a calendar and be very specific on what you want to play, and leave a little margin for. Independent. Oh, Annapurna said they would release this. So Devolver's Annapurna and Devolver are developers for indie games, and they have a library of indie games, which is great. If you don't know them, seriously look at the list of games they have. Of course, it's cheap indie games, but a lot of them are extremely good. So I recommend. But yeah, no, I agree with you. It's quite packed. The library.
What's your feeling about this, Adam?
I'm kind of the opposite, but at the same time, the same thing. I don't know. Like, I'm not depressed. Like, oh man, all these new games are coming out. It's like, oh man, I gotta go to work. It's not the games that depress me. It's the fact that I can't play them. And for me specifically, like this month's been pretty busy, just because we had an extra corporate class that we were teaching like bank people, so it was like 4 hours a day. That was, it was once a week, but it was like an extra 4 hours in the day. So that took out my like Tuesdays entirely. So I couldn't game on Tuesdays. And then looking into the horizon, I see summer classes coming up, and one of our teachers is going to be on vacation, which means that I'm going to have to work mornings, 4 days a week. Wednesday's going to be my only day that I don't, so I'm not going to be able to stream anymore. So, it's just going to be like from 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. work. And so that's what depresses me is I'm like, it's not that all these games are coming out. It's like, I just have so many other things that I need to do that I can't play these games. Like I don't know. Like I want to get to them, and it's just like okay, but then I see like I have to do this and I have to do this, and it's not the games that depress me. It's all the other things that take up my time that I can't play games that depresses me.
We need to get monetized and get Adam to work full time on the channel.
That's right. Yeah. No, yeah. Then I could just play 4 hours and then put something together for the next 4 hours, and then that would be my 8-hour day, and then I could play 4 hours on my own time. This is why I don't watch TV anymore, though, because I'm just like it's one of those things where it's like at the end of the day, it's like okay, you have a choice. You can, I'm a huge anime guy, but I haven't watched. The last anime I watched was Edge Runners, and before that, I don't remember what the last thing I watched was. Just because it's one of those things where it's like, okay, I have, an hour. What am I gonna do? Am I gonna, catch up on a couple episodes of Beastars, or am I going to, do some dailies in Final Fantasy 14? Okay, I'll just do the dailies, and end up playing games. But then that means that basically I've had to sacrifice TV almost entirely. So.
Yeah, that is unfortunate. And you guys can see Adam is super busy and tired at the same time. So please be thankful to him for doing all this wonderful production work behind the scenes. And with that, let's move on to Adam's second story.
All right. So for my my third story was I played the Final Fantasy 16 tech demo, or not demo, just tech demo, just demo. So they had the demo out. It is the first two, I guess they're called chapters. It comes up with like a title card. It doesn't officially say chapter 1, chapter 2, but there's like a title card and it has a whatever. So I played it. I will say I don't think Antoine would enjoy it, but that is because the gameplay is so different. Story-wise, I think he'd actually really enjoy it, but the gameplay is very different. So after playing this, I will say I do prefer Final Fantasy VII Remake's gameplay over the gameplay here. When I was playing it, it felt like I was playing Nier. The controls are very, very similar to Nier. You have your attack, you have your spells, you have all that sort of thing. Basically, what you have is your basic buttons. You have attack, magic, which is just a ranged attack, basically. And then you have your, whatever your icons, kind of iconic ability, I guess you would call it, and jump. And then if you hit R2, then it brings up, basically it's a wheel where it brings up, new abilities that you can use. And those are all going to change depending on which icon you have. So if you have Ifrit, or if you have Phoenix, you're going to have, fire spells or access to fire magic. If you have Odin, you're going to have other stuff. If you have Garuda, you're going to have other stuff. So that's how all your magic is done now. Everything's done in real time. Everything's pretty quick. I will say, I kind of struggled with it because it felt so much like Nier, but the dodge and the magic ability, the dodge and the magic buttons are swapped. On Nier, dodge was R2 and magic was R1. On this one, dodge is R1 and magic is R2. And it felt so much like Nier that I was screwing up all the time because I'd be wanting to dodge and I'd just bring up my magic wheel and take the hit, or I'd want to do magic and I'd end up dodging and I'd be in a bad position. So I'm wondering if I can swap those two buttons because, yeah, playing it felt like a Nier game. But the story, the music, all that, very Final Fantasy. So if you're the kind of person who enjoys Nier games, you're probably going to enjoy this game. If you're the kind of person who enjoys Final Fantasy games for their story, you're probably going to enjoy this game. But if you're the kind of person who enjoys Final Fantasy for the gameplay, it takes some getting used to. So, but I will also say that playing the demo, what we saw in earlier, kind of what they had shown off with the graphics and stuff, and then playing the demo, it is a notch up. So it has improved the visuals a bit.
All right, Antoine, your turn.
Well, as he said, I'm not gonna buy a PS5 just for this. And for me, a game is equal part gameplay and story, right? If the gameplay is fantastic, but story is crap, I can't forgive the game. If the story is fantastic and the gameplay is crap, I give him a pass. I may force myself. I really hated FF15 gameplay, and yet for the first part of the game until the Venice type city, I did enjoy myself, right? And I liked it. Just, the second party was so rushed that the story went down so bad that I ended up not liking it. But I could adapt myself to the gameplay if the story is worth it. But I'm gonna wait for reviews because I don't. Yeah. You know my take on 15. I'm not gonna go back to it. So yeah, that looks like something I'm gonna watch on stream, basically.
Yeah, the gameplay is good. It's just it's like I said, it feels like Nier. So if you enjoyed Nier style gameplay or Devil May Cry, then you would probably enjoy this.
And you mentioned music. I saw actually earlier that the pre-orders of the music is on Amazon right now. That you can buy the actual physical CD or Blu-ray or whatever end of July, but you can pre-order now, and it's gonna go apparently quite fast. I don't know the lad. I saw his name, but I don't know. Apparently, he's a legendary composer. Makes great RPG music. I haven't heard any music on FF16, but I'm the kind of guy who, if I hear some really great music, I want to play the game. Like typically Persona 5. I was really in love with the music of Persona. That's why I wanted to play the game. Same on the Metal Gear Revengeance. I heard the music and I was like, I need to play the game because of this. So I don't know. I didn't hear the music for this.
Most of the music for this so far has actually been
pretty good. Yeah,
it's been mostly older Final Fantasy music. You get like the Crystal theme and that sort of thing. So it's just adaptations of older music. But like the kind of stuff that's been a staple, not like specific from any series. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll have to get further into it before I start getting into its original stuff. Yeah.
In any case, I'm not gonna buy PS5 just for this one. So once again.
I guess I have a question. Like thinking about the general Final Fantasy audience, Adam and Antoine, is like, given what you've experienced, Adam, like, do you think this is gonna affect? I don't think it's gonna affect sales, right? Because this is one of those properties that when it's coming out, people are gonna buy it no matter what, right? So, but I mean, do you think this is gonna affect perhaps the reviews or perception from the Final Fantasy audience?
I think it will, but I think it's one of those things where it's the same with Armored Core. Like, I'm a really old school Armored Core fan, And when I look at these changes, I'm kind of like, I wanted, because I like the old games. I haven't had a game like that in a long time. I want that older experience, but they've updated it with some, I guess you would call them quality of life improvements that kind of accommodate newer players who have become accustomed to things like hard locking. And I think in Final Fantasy, it's kind of that sort of thing where it's evolving. And for people that are really old school fans, you're kind of like, but it is making these changes to accommodate for younger and newer audiences. So I think it will review well because of that, because it is appealing to a newer audience rather than remaining niche to an older audience. So I think that'll positively reflect in review. Especially because a lot of reviewers are younger people.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it. The older audience of tell me what you think, but when you say hardcore Final Fantasy fan, you have three types. Very old audience, 1 to 6, then our age 7 to 12, there was not much evolution, right, in terms of gameplay. Little touch by little touch, and it was some kind of similar gameplay, and it was nice. And after came 12-2. I don't know what they did. It was 12-2. 10-2, not 12-2. 10-2, and all the 13, which was completely new experience. I don't know what you feel, but the 13s were different. The 15 was very different. I feel like they're really trying every Final Fantasy now. They're really trying something new, but not just a little touch. Very new each time. So you can't say now that there's some hardcore Final Fantasy fan, because they disappeared after 12, I think. Or if you're expecting something like 12, it's not gonna happen. Just look at FF7 remakes. It's great, but it's completely different in terms of gameplay. So you have to adapt to it. Either adapt with them or just don't play them.
Yeah, I've seen them say, like, because of when it became Square Enix, Square had Final Fantasy, Enix had Dragon Quest, and so Dragon Quest has. So they said, why have two series that do the same thing with turn-based combat and all that? Why don't we have one series that sticks to its roots and have the other one be a little more experimental? Final Fantasy has become the experimental series, whereas Dragon Quest is the stick-to-its-roots series.
But Dragon Quest is not really famous in the western part of the world,
Not
right?
as much, no.
All right, gents, with 2 minutes left, Adam, I know you wanted to mention something about streaming.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, so it's Dragon Boat, and that means we have off for vacation, and my wife is going to be on at a show on Friday. So Friday is the day that I normally stream. So with my wife out of the way, I'm going to forego my normal gaming stream like I normally do with, say, Besieged or whatever, and instead I'm going to be doing a longer stream making this. It is the NASA Apollo Saturn V. It's about 3 feet tall. So I'm going to be doing this on stream. I don't know how long it's going to take me, but I'll do it hopefully from start to finish. So it might be a long stream this
Where
Friday.
did you get that from?
From my parents. They sent it for Christmas, and I've been sitting on it waiting for an opportunity to build it.
Really cool.
Yeah, it's the Lego Saturn
Nice.
V rocket. It's huge.
It's gonna take a good 6-7 hours. Huh?
It might. So I'm gonna start it on Friday at I'm gonna try to make my normal time, but I'm gonna have to set up all the cameras and stuff, so I might be a little bit late. But I'm gonna try to make it at my normal time, and yeah, I'm gonna have to figure out what to do about lunch because I might have to skip it. But yeah, I'm gonna be doing that this Friday. So I wanted to let everybody know so they can pop in and say hi.
What do you put it in your background after that?
And yeah, then it'll go in the background.
Will it fit in the background? I don't think so, right?
Part of it will.
All right, middle-aged gamers, that's something for you guys to keep an eye out for, and maybe something to promote. Stay tuned for next week's podcast. We're going to use more gaming, and hopefully we'll see you guys next week again.
Bye-bye.
Catch you later.